Let's take a look at how to take those 32 grams of chlorine and change them into grams of sodium chloride. Now we're going to do the same conversions we did last time for these grams of sodium to grams of sodium chloride. We're going to follow that same flow chart here, and the first step is we're going to take the grams of chlorine and change it to moles of chlorine. So let's multiply by our conversion factor. And I have grams of Cl up on top, so I'm going to want to put those grams of Cl2 down on the bottom. And I'm trying to go from grams of Cl2 to moles of Cl2. Now in order to do that, if you remember, we have to look at the periodic table. So I'm going to put my moles of Cl2 up on top. And right now what I need to do is look at, well, what is the mass of chlorine? Well, the mass of chlorine is 35.45. Let me see if I can make a box here and zoom in on that. 35.45. So for chlorine here, I have a mass of 35.5, we'll just round it to. But for Cl2, because I have a 2 there, I have to multiply that by 2 to get my mass of 71. And what we just said was that 1 mole of Cl2 was equal to 71 grams of Cl2. And we want to use that now in this conversion. So we just said 1 mole of Cl2, so I put a 1 next to the mole, is equal to 71 grams of Cl2. I got grams of Cl2 on the top and bottom, so those are canceled out, and now I'm in my moles of Cl2. Now I want to take that next step and change these moles of Cl2, and I want to try to get to what I'm solving for, which is the sodium chloride. So I want to change my moles of Cl2 into moles of sodium chloride. So I'm going to have to multiply by another conversion step here. And I had the moles of Cl2 up on the top, so I want to put that down on the bottom of the next step. And I want to change this now to the moles of the sodium chloride, which is what I'm trying to solve for. So I'm going to put moles of NaCl up on the top. Now this step right here comes from the balance equation. So this conversion here, moles of Cl2, moles of NaCl, anytime I have a mole on top and the mole on the bottom, mole of one substance on the top, mole of another substance down on the bottom, I got to get the conversion factor itself from the periodic table. Excuse me, from the balance equation. Sorry about that. So I'm going to pull the numbers from the equation. I have a 1 next to the Cl2, so I want to put a 1 next to my moles of Cl2. I have a 2 next to the NaCl, so I'm going to plug that in and put that next to the NaCl. Now because I have the moles of Cl2 on the top and the bottom in 2 different steps, I cancel that out, and now I'm in my moles of NaCl. So I've successfully converted my moles of Cl2 into moles of NaCl. Now I got to keep going here because I have to take one more step to get to grams of NaCl. So I'm going to extend the page, draw a line, take it down to the next level here because I'm running out of room, multiply by my final step, and on the top I have moles of NaCl, so that means on the bottom in my next step I'm going to put the moles of NaCl, and I'm trying to get to, it says, well, I'm trying to get to the grams of NaCl, so that's what I want to have up on top. So I'm going to take grams of NaCl and put that up on the top there, just like so. Now, just like we did before, we have to look this up from the periodic table. So if you remember, we looked up the conversion of 1 mole of Cl2 to grams of Cl2. Now we're doing the same thing from the periodic table this time for NaCl. So I have Na and I have Cl, that's my formula. So let's look this up. Well, we already did chlorine, it was 35.5. We looked that up from the periodic table. And if we zoom in on sodium real quick, it's 22.99, so let's say that that's just 23. And I want to add these two together to get my mass for my sodium chloride, which is just going to be 58.5. So what I'm going to have here for my conversion is that 1 mole of NaCl is going to be equal to 58.5 grams. And that's for NaCl. So let's use that conversion. I have 58.5, we just said. That's 58.5 grams for every 1 mole. So we'll put the 1 down on the bottom. Now we have our equation set up. Now we just have to do our math. So let's take a look at how to do this math. Up on the top, I have 32, 1, 2, and 58.5. So I'm going to take those numbers, 32 times 1 times 2, multiply that by 58.5, and up on the top I get 3,744. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. So down on the bottom I have 1, I have 71, I have 1, and I have another 1. So really down on the bottom all I have is 71. So I'm going to take that value, divide it by 71, And when I do that, I get an answer of 52.7, we'll just round this to 2 decimals, 3, and that's grams of NaCl. So hopefully that helps you see how to take my grams of my chlorine now and change it into grams of sodium chloride. We'll take a look, press the next button, take a look at the next step.